Okay, so this one tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about interoperability again. Why? Well, because we think it's probably the most important thing to come out of crypto in the last few years. There's been all sorts of chains launched and all sorts of layer twos and layer ones, and really it comes down to that old question: why another layer one? Well, as we know, crypto still operates in, or blockchain still operates in silos, and that's a problem, and we've solved that. So the topic for tonight is around interoperability and is it the most valuable investment in the future of Web3? I want to welcome everyone for coming along tonight. And tonight we've got, it's an Ask Me Anything session with a panel of some high net worth investors, some sophisticated investors, as we call them in Australia, to share their experiences and insights into why they've invested in interoperability and specifically Layer 1X. So what I'd like to do is just open it up to each of our speakers to introduce themselves and give us a little bit of info about yourself, your background, your experience in investment. So first one, Mr. Crypto Psycho.
So I've been investment wise. I actually started a long time ago. Like I think I posted in the chat yesterday. Actually, I started investing in stock market when I was probably around in my 20s, but I didn't have the time or patience to do research, and I was kind of trusting other people in the space. In newspapers specifically, and I was basically investing in what I was being recommended, and I didn't have the time or patience to look at stuff myself, and in the end I got wrecked, and that was a bitter experience. Fast forwarding right up until 2018, that's when I kind of found crypto, but again in 2018 I wasn't really looking at relationships, looking at projects in depth. I was just kind of buying blind, if you will. And it's only in 2021 where I started like making relationships and joining communities. And at that point, that's when I started to see value in things, because I was getting to know projects, getting to know teams, getting to know communities, and I'd say it's taken me probably all my life to get to where I am now, to realise that's where the value lies, and it's got me to here where I am now, and I've fortunately found a lot of good projects, a lot of good investments, and I know when this bull run comes, a lot of them will, hopefully, a lot of them will do really well, and it's just through spending time and getting to know people, building the relationships. That's what's key, in my opinion, anyway.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's jump over to Sleazy Slimy and get a little bit of background on yourself and your background in investment. Some of your experiences.
Yes, hello. So you might notice that I'm pretty young for a lot of people here. Mostly it is, I see a lot of investors here that are just gray-haired. No offense. I'm lucky to be able to have enough. Yeah, I'm lucky to be able to invest, even though I am pretty much fresh out of university. It kind of works out. I pretty much have more experience with Web3 than I have with development, because I graduated as IT, only undergrad though. And it kind of works out for me because I think in this space, you are expected more to know about Web3 first and then have technical skills. Like, you're expected to have both, of course. But if you choose between someone who knows more about Web3 and a little less about technical skills, or someone more about technical but is oblivious about Web3, you would go with the one who knows more about Web3. So I'm hoping to build some kind of career out of this. I have started investing really first into only like Bitcoin. I was very careful at first because I'm kind of a frugal person by nature, especially because, when you go through undergrad, it kind of humbles you because you have very limited resources. You just only buy food. And when you do buy food, you calculate everything on a spreadsheet to make sure that you don't overspend. I remember I did I made the calculation. I spent €4.5 per day on food, which I was very proud of because that enabled me to save a lot of money in university. I started investing in Web3, as I said, only just with things like Bitcoin, Ethereum. I remember seeing Ethereum going from like $200 to, it was actually in the pandemic, to like $500. And I was pretty much hooked on this. I started looking into how I can build something on Ethereum. When I found L1X in March, it was Joe Paris video. It is pretty popular. I see a lot of people in chat who actually found L1X in the same manner. I was involved in a gaming project. The gaming project was talking a lot about the interoperability because they were trying to bridge stuff from one chain to the other chain, and that was considered already very high tech, just bridging your token and having that token on more than one chain. And I found about L1X. It kind of intrigued me of why it claimed to be a decentralized swap. Fun fact, only in the last MA, I've actually found out how it is a decentralized swap and how it affects interoperability as opposed to something like Cosmos IBC, because most people would think about interoperability as something like not holding custody of your funds. And what else? And that the nodes that are responsible for the swap are decentralized. And that's really what I thought for a long time as well. But it's a good thing that Kevin actually clarified with technical details, which I would like to talk about more, but let's get through introductions first, I guess. So the next one, I guess.
For sure. No, thank you for that. And I'll just add to that, going back to your early days when you were, sitting there trying to deal with, food and living for €4 a day. I actually found my old, my very first pay slip or annual statement. And I think I earned about $9,000 in my first year of working when I joined the military, and it was quite phenomenal trying to live off that sort of money. I think I was probably lucky because at least the military provides you food, which they took out of that, by the way. So yeah, I know where you're coming from. That you actually start out, and it humbles you very much about where you've come from and where you want to get to. And I think it opens us up to looking for those things that that we all hunt for in life. So now what I'll do is I'll jump over to Ash and get a little bit of an overview and introduction from him.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Firstly, thanks for having me on this platform. Much appreciated. So my name is Ashwini. Feel free to call me Ash, as that's what my friends and colleagues call me. I come from IT background, wherein I've been working as a techno-functional consultant, driving product development and transformations in the financial services industry. The last decade or so, I have spent working for MasterCard and the big four banks here in Sydney. In terms of investment, so I've been investing for the last 10, 12 years or so, largely in Sydney and Melbourne real estate, which has done pretty well in the last 2 cycles. And then lately, I have started diversifying by buying equities, mostly ASX stocks and ETFs. Crypto, not so much. I only bought some coins as in Solana, Luna, and AVAX in the last cycle without doing much of due diligence. And I, to some extent, I got burnt as well. So since then, I've been doing some reading, some research, and in this cycle, I feel I think I'm much better prepared than what I was last time.
Thanks for that, Ash. Look, what I might do is stick with you, Ash, and go back in to the other guys in a minute. But you mentioned in there about that you're working across the financial services industry, and look, I've got a background across there as well. Working across in the UK, across investment banking. So I probably know the answer to this question, but it's not really for me. It's for our listeners. You having worked across that industry, what do you see as the benefits or the problems that exist out there in with traditional finance that you're now seeing that interoperability and blockchain could resolve?
I would say financial industry is very heavily regulated. Okay, so and hence it works in to some extent it works in silos as well, right? So in terms of let's say if I take for example, if I take about talk about interoperability, right? And I think that's what today's topic is, right?
Yes.
So I'll give you a very relevant example. So prior to 2018 and 19, if you go to any of the banks here in Australia and apply for a car loan or a home loan or even for a credit card, and for some reason, if you're banking with one bank, whereas if you're asking for a loan from the other bank, these guys would ask for your payslip and all those documents as in hard copies or soft copies, which you would have to provide to the other bank, who would then go through them, analyze the details, and then provide an outcome. But since 2018, the Australian government introduced a framework for financial institutes to securely share the banking data with other accredited financial institutes. The purpose was to share the customer data based on users' consent, which would help in offering better products and services, and hence it would be a good outcome for the customer. So mind you, the user still controls their data and it can only be shared if they agree to do so. So to explain in simple terms, let's say if you bank with Commonwealth, with CBA, but want to apply a car loan with ANZ, ANZ is Australian New Zealand Bank. So typically what would happen is ANZ would ask for your pay slips and bank statements from CommBank so that they can assess your income, expense, calculate serviceability for the loans, and based on this, they will approve or decline the loan. Now, if I'm the customer, it's such a big hassle. You need to download the documents, send it to ANZ. The ANZ credit team will analyze them. Then they will go through each of the transactions, calculate how much I earned, I spent, how much I've saved. All of this process would be done manually. So it's such a manual and an inefficient process, which would typically take 1 or 2 weeks to get a decision. However, comes open banking. If the customer agrees to share their savings and their current bank account data, the other bank can run their car loan origination system on this data, and you can get an outcome within 1 minute. So I feel that it's such a great outcome and a big win for customer, for the customer, and as well as for the bank, which is providing that product. So to summarize, I would say the banking world, it still works very much in silos, but with the frameworks and the regulations coming in, I think it is kind of getting together to provide better customer outcomes.
Thank you for that. And I think what we're seeing there is that the financial services industry, or TradFi as we call it, is really starting to see the problems that have existed for so long, and it's really hard because for them, because they've got all this regulation, but equally, do we need regulation across crypto? Well, yeah, I think we do to a point, but it's also that decentralized nature of it that should also give us the security, because what you're describing there is those banks are now sharing, with your permission, all of your financial information across the other banks. So they've now got a picture of you as a customer, and ultimately you've got no control then of all that information that they're now holding. So, okay, it's great for people to get approvals, but they can't really control that information after it's been shared. So that other bank can say no, but they've still got all your information. Whereas I think you go in blockchain, we can actually make it so that you can, if you need to share information, you can choose to do so to whatever level you choose, or revoke that access. And I think that's probably really, really important. So I might jump over to Sleazy Slimy and see what you think. See if you've got any thoughts around that as well.
Yeah, so I think if it comes to TradFi, most people don't know that they handle that permission, because I remember when I signed the document to open a bank account back when I was 18, it was like 7 or 8 pages, and it was in Spanish, which at the time I knew a lot worse than I do now. I honestly don't know what exactly I signed. I kind of read through it. I took like 15, 20 minutes on it. And the clerk was very patient with me because I was already struggling. So, and also, even if you do know that you give them permission, it's the kind of permission that if you don't give it to them, you don't have a bank account. And you can't go to anyone else because they're going to ask for the same thing. So I think that is a big difference between what's going to be the change in Web3 on that front.
And even though you're sharing that information, I think it's still siloed, as in, you've gone to another silo for that approval or for that loan. You've still not opened it up to the wider world of finding the best form of whether it's a loan or a new account or whatever it might be. You still don't have that choice. You're sort of limited in a way. Crypto Psycho, what are your thoughts?
You are muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Mike. If you can just repeat the question, because my Twitter disconnected and jumped back in again, so I only got Sleazy Slimy speaking.
Yeah, so it was Ash was talking a little bit about the traditional finance world and how their regulation is now enabling banks to share information, obviously with consent. And I guess the feeling around, even though you've consented to sharing information, that second or subsequent bank has all your information and you can't control it. Any thoughts around that, or?
Well, I mean, I think we've grown up with the fact. The thing is, it's if DeFi was normal, I think we'd be conditioned to think differently. But I think because we've grown up in the world that we've grown up, we're kind of conditioned to just accepting the fact all our information is shared, nothing's private. Every time you give something, you've not a clue where it's going, and there's that many data breaches. But it's like it's got to a point where I think it's one of them things that people are a bit blasé about it because it happens day in, day out. And I think it's only when it happens to you where you've been maybe involved in some kind of data breach. I mean, there seems to be one every year, don't there? Like some big bank, some big platform loses the data, shares it with people that they shouldn't be sharing it with. And yeah, I actually think the next generation, maybe my kids or like Sleazy Slimy's kids, I think DeFi is going to play a much bigger role. I think decentralization, people having control over their own data, who they share it with, when they share it with. I think in the next 10 years or so, I think it'll become more and more normal and probably more accepted too. I mean, you're never going to get you're never going to get rid of centralization, but I think people's views about sharing data and who you share it with will significantly change. And I think the expectation will be not to just disclose all your information to banks because you don't know who's going to get their hands on it, do you? And it's pretty significant if you get your identity taken over. It's up to you to go and fix it all. And I've got a friend that had their identity taken, and it was a nightmare for them. They literally had to contact everybody to try and fix it, and it's not an easy process.
No, you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you. Now, what I might do is let's move on a little bit, and maybe Crypto Psycho, to start off with you again. So, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned along your investment journey, whether it's in traditional finance world or in crypto, that you can share?
The biggest lesson that I've learned is actual research and getting to know what it is that you're looking at investing in. So don't do anything blind. Don't do anything on a whim. Always do your due diligence. And once you've found something, whether it be in the stock market or like in crypto, find communities where people are engaging. I mean, it's a lot easier for crypto because there's communities for every single project. Probably more in traditional finance, they are going to be out there, but you've just got to me, it's all about the relationships and the networking that you do. Because if I hadn't have got into any of the communities that I've got into, how would I have known what I'm actually buying? Because at the end of the day, you've got to trust the team, you've got to trust the utility of the project. And to a degree, you wanna kind of connect with the communities as well, because by connecting with the communities, you can get like a good idea of what the project's all about. So yeah, to me, I mean, to sum it up, it's the networking and the relationships is the single most important part of that. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And over to Sleazy Slimy.
Yeah, so one of the indicators that I found out for myself on how to find low cap projects. Let's see. So the Discord moderation is one of the biggest ones. I remember I was almost about to heavy invest into one project, but my problem was I would ask something in general chat, and the mod would respond only in like 6-7 hours. So he would. It's not because he was sleeping either, because he was awake clearly at the time. It's just generally the response time was so slow, and sometimes I would even not be seen by the moderator, even though the general chat was not overly active. So when the new investors come in and try to find out about the project, a lot of them just cannot help but. I mean, it is difficult to go on the website and take all of the information from there and not miss anything. So you go to Discord and you ask about things. And when I was doing a lot of research about the projects, almost none of them can provide me the answers because the Discord is dead, pretty much. And there's no other avenue for me to ask questions. So how am I supposed to do the research if nobody is answering me? So that is essentially my biggest lesson to learn.
No, excellent. And I think you're right. I think our mods are absolutely fantastic in the way they respond and answer questions for everybody. I know that from my side of it, it's very difficult to actually get on there and update. I love it. I love getting on there, but it's a matter of, for me personally, of finding some time. So our mods really jump in and help out a huge amount on that one. I'll pass across to Ash now.
Wait, one more thing. There was also another Metaverse project I was very much considering, and it was great. Their problem with the Discord was that even though they responded from time to time, they pretty much isolated themselves from the community. And so while they were working on developments, the community has, at layer one, has pretty much moved on to other things, and they were still working on what used to be relevant. So yeah, I think that's also the other part of not just the mods, but also the developers being in touch with the community from time to time.
No, brilliant. No, thank you for that. Okay, so Ash, what are your thoughts on that about any lessons that you've learned along your journey?
So for me, see, on a generic level and not specific to property investment, I would say doing your due diligence, understanding the market where you're buying, selecting the right product. I think that's important, and also should have a risk mitigation strategy as well, and a plan B just in case if things starting to fall off.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got my first introduction to due diligence across the military when we were actually doing a lot of work and a lot of research and coming up with how do I call it, when you're coming up with reports, shall I say. I then moved across into the financial world and working for those investment banks. Not only did I do those reviews and things like that, I was actually asked to go out to potential investments to those companies and actually perform full due diligence across the teams. And I did quite a lot of that. It was actually quite enjoyable. You come across some really passionate people. And I think that also comes across in our Discord as well, and our team about how passionate everybody is with Low1x and what we've built here. So what I might do is move on the next question around really what made you guys want to diversify your portfolio to include interoperability, and do you see that as a valuable investment? Is it something that stands out to you when you look at crypto or blockchains today? Maybe Crypto Psycho, to start with you. And he's on mute again. Hopefully he's still with us. he's dropped off. Look, we'll give him a minute to jump back on again shortly, but over to Sleazy Slimy.
Yeah, sure. So I was looking into quite a lot of gaming projects. I am still quite involved, not as much involved, but with one of the metaverse gaming projects. And interoperability is pretty much all the rage for them. So as was stated in the AMA, we have oracles. Then if we add to oracles 3 layers, they become bridges. And then we can have L1X. So if we add oracles to Web3 gaming, so it's not something I've researched much, but that's my understanding of it. If you add oracles, you can add the NFT marketplace inside the game. A lot of projects are talking about integrating the NFT marketplace into the game, and that is a big progress for them. So they were all talking about interoperability part of things. Then maybe you can add a bridge, and you can have cross-chain the token, I guess, for them. So you would think about having the games on 2 chains. Like even 2 chains is already a big deal for them. So they were always focused on this. And now we can look at L1X and actually have, as Kevin said, multi-chain instead of cross-chain games. But that's another topic. So yeah, essentially I diversified because a lot of the Web3 gaming projects are focused on bringing their games to other chains. That's pretty much where it started for me.
Okay. And by bringing those games across to other chains, with that multi-chain, it still creates a bit of a problem because you can't truly interoperate between them. Yes, you can swap. You can do that via bridges, etc., but it's still quite painful and takes a lot of takes building up a lot of knowledge about how to do that, and it takes away from enjoying the game because you can't get in there and just play the game, which is ultimately what you want to do, right?
Yeah. So I have one specific example. That game has a crafting mini game. Well, it will at some point have crafting mini game because it's still in development. And I was thinking, how would we do that? Because every material, or as we call them, mats, and tools and finished product, they all have to be NFTs. So that is very expensive. Their solution was to have a layer 2. Well, they are also layer 2, but another layer 2 to go with them. They would calculate all of transactions there. They're almost like a side chain, I guess, to them. And then sort of bunch everything together, sort of like ZK rollups, I guess, and send the finished product to the to the game token NFTs. But I mean, hold on a second, I kind of lost my train of thought.
So it sounds like it was painful to do that, yeah?
Yeah, they're still in the process of doing this, and like they're sort of like a centralized to decentralized cloud. So this almost feels like a duct tape solution to me, at least, because you're essentially trying to take a very expensive thing and sort of optimize it. And what I thought about how L1X works, that actually it takes away all of that pain, because essentially, let's say you're trying. Hold on. Let's say there's a new patch in an MMO game. And those people that play MMO games are probably going to know the feeling. You're expected to gather materials, then you're expected to craft some preparation materials, and then out of those preparation materials, you're supposed to craft the final set. So there are people who would go and calculate on a spreadsheet everything they need, which, I mean, a lot of people don't want to do that because it breaks the gaming experience. Some people like spreadsheets, but that's not many, especially among gamers. I think I know like a couple people who are really into spreadsheets, and they are special people, I guess you could say. And also there's an element of randomness, as we call it RNG, or we also call it RNGesus. That's why you cannot always calculate exactly how much you're going to need. For Web3 game, that is going to be very painful because every time you have to deal with NFTs, and if you have to deal with NFTs, that means you have to pay the fee for dealing with NFTs. So, but coming back to the point, with L1X, we add execution layer to the communication. So it is my understanding that you actually don't have to deal with the fees all the time, because the communication between the crafting materials and the finished product, and the finished product that is going to come later on, can actually be communicated with each other without committing to the chain, the final product. And once you click, yes, I am ready, I am done with the process, and now you can actually calculate the last fee. So yeah, that is how I think it can really help the crafting side of things.
Yeah, so I guess for me that it comes back to not just interoperability, but that integration as well. Where and look, I've got to admit, I was on a call earlier today, and it was actually with our friends at Diga Labs, and what they did for me was so they put up on their screen, the Elder and Grain, and then they sent across the links for it. So I actually logged in, created an account for myself in there, and actually started playing some of the games that you guys are going to see coming up soon, and it was great fun. And really, what we'll see in there is as we progress through that and introduce more and more capability, you'll start seeing the ability for people to whether they want to create their own NFT of it could be a skin or a gun or a sword or a character, any of that sort of stuff from the gaming world can actually be bought and sold. You can push it out there for sale. And if you need to actually buy one yourself, you'll be able to do it from within the game. The whole idea here is that you don't have to actually shell out in the same way that, you go into you're playing game now, that you actually have to go out of it, sort out your, the payment side of it to jump back in again and fiddle around. Whereas the objective with Layer 1X is that we're able to do that from within a game. We can incorporate all of that wallet capability or the ability to buy and sell NFTs from within the game itself, and introduce that across to the gaming studios, and they're pretty excited about that, moving it forward. So I'll jump across to Ash now about the things that you see about interoperability, and you see it as a valuable investment.
Yeah. So firstly, in regards to the L1X investment, so Mike, as you would know, L1X was introduced to us through our network. So it was then when I went through the white paper and I came to know about interoperability, and then I started reading about it. So what I found was the current Web3 landscape, so which is becoming increasingly multi-chain and multi-layered. So you have layer 1s and then layer 2s and even layer 3 networks on top of it. And so, but all of them work in silos and have their own ecosystems. So it is critical that these on-chain environments are able to interoperate to share the assets. So, for example, I mean, if we talk about a live use case, so let's say if you've got a lending protocol where you collateralize your ETH on Ethereum chain, borrow against it, bridge to destination chain, do a swap, then farm, swap back to ETH, bridge back to the source chain, repay, and finally unlock the collateral. So that's heaps of steps. So if you tell this to our L1X grandma, maybe she'll get a fit. So no way she would be able to understand a single bit.
And Ash, I've experienced a lot of what you're describing there, but I think the first time that it actually brings it home is if you go back. I'll go back probably a couple of years now, or actually quite a few years, when I actually did a transaction on there, and I actually put down the wrong network, and it's gone. And that's probably one of the key things for me is that you learn that lesson very, very quickly when you make a mistake. You send it to the wrong network, and that's one of the things that where with the interoperability is that we'll remove that as being a problem, because when you do a swap, between chains, you want to go cross chain. You can't really make a mistake. You might send it to the wrong wallet. Okay, that's an address problem, but you won't select the wrong network because it's automatically inserted in there for you. And that's something that nobody's ever bothered solving, even in the last sort of 7 years since MetaMask was created. It's crazy that nobody has, but that's just one little aspect of it. Psycho, I don't know if you're still sorry.
Please. I'm here. Now I've done that as well. I sent back in 2018. I sent Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin, or the other way around. I can't remember which way around it were, but I lost it and I was not happy. And yeah, you learn the hard way, don't you?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Now, just to touch on the last question about like how interoperability is valuable, and then like the current landscape that we're in now, they kind of morph into the same, to be honest, because to me, like the future of crypto or Web3, whatever you want to call it, it comes from interoperability. So like if we're gonna onboard the masses, which basically means onboarding everyone that uses social media platforms, everyone that listens to music, everyone that plays games, it's got to be done on a Web2 side where people are playing games, people are listening to music, people are engaging on social platforms in a Web2 kind of landscape, but on a Web3 like on a Web3 kind of blockchain. That's on the back end what they don't see. So like as far as like investments go into L1X because it's interoperable, I can't really think of a better investment to be in when it comes to interoperability, because it's covering everything, and it's the thing is it's the blockchain that allows it to happen. But then the crazy thing is the projects that are going to come and build on this chain. So you're getting everything. If you're looking at Layer 1X as something that you want to get into because it's interoperable, it's probably the only chain that does what it does. And because it does what it does, it's got to attract so many projects, because if they want to interact with all these different chains, and even Web2 companies, where they're looking at, okay, well, how do we take advantage of getting all this exposure? They can just look at Layer 1X as just like an on-ramp for them into blockchain. And then from there, then they can go out and they can target all these different gamers, all these different musicians, all these different social media or metaverse, whatever you want to call them, and it's all done through one place. Like the landscape at the minute it's all about interoperability. It's all about digital identity, and it's what's being talked about. And then the other thing is AI as well. That's like a massive narrative too. But the beauty of Layer 1X, it's a blockchain that connects everything, and the innovation that's going to be built on top of that, we don't even know what it is yet. And I'm sure a lot of these AI platforms, what are building, that are getting a lot of eyes and a lot of ears now, once they find out about L1X, I think a transition to L1X is probably inevitable, because if you've got AI that is so advanced in what it's capable of doing, imagine putting that on a blockchain that then can connect to every chain. So to me, it's the most sensible investment, because you can basically tap into everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's almost like let's use the analogy of a hot rod or a racing car. That at the moment you got things like AI. That's the racing car, and then they're sticking bicycle wheels on it and trying to drive it around. It's not going to work. They're going to need that capability the whole way through. You know,
that's
huge.
Exactly it. And I've been looking at quite a few different AI projects, because a lot of people are talking about AI projects, and the thing is, they don't know about L1X yet. Can you imagine what AI will be capable of doing? These projects that are launching, what it'll be capable of doing for like the DeFi applications.
Totally.
They'll find out about Layer 1X, and they'll be rolling over laughing, because the opportunity that they've got, what they can tap into, is immense.
Well, interesting what you've been talking there. I don't know if people can hear it, but I've got all these dings happening in my headset about all the messages, and it's what's happening. All the projects and people that we're talking to are just keep, the messaging keeps coming, and I've got to take my hat off to Ina, who's I think she's actually I don't know if she's on the call, but she's around. The amount of messages she's responding to, that we're all responding to, is absolutely huge. So, look, I might move on a little bit, and I know, Ash, I think you touched on it already about how you first got introduced. Maybe if you share us a little bit more about that story from your side, that'll be good.
It's using a bridge. He's doing a me.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's still on mute. Ash, I don't know if you heard that one, but tell us about how you got introduced to Layer 1X.
Sorry, guys, the mute button just got sticky. Okay, so as Mike, as I told, so Layer 1 was introduced via our network. So I went through the white paper, and that's when I did my initial investment. And then later on, I visited the L1X office in Perth as well. So I live on the Australian East Coast, and so flew especially to meet the team, talk through the project, the future roadmap, etc. And I think this was last year when we were still in private sale round.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So So during that visit, I met Kevin, Matthew, Norman, and yourself. And then I spent, I still remember, I spent a considerable amount of time chatting to you, all things L1X, your journey from IT to crypto, and some facts and figures, which were alpha at that stage, but well known now. So that visit sort of cemented my conviction in the L1X team, and hence I made further investment into in that private sale round, and from that visit, I even got a L1X T-shirt. So Mike was kind enough to present me that L1X T-shirt, which was a big deal at that point of time.
I think it still is, mate. I think there's still a lot of people who are hunting for that, and let alone things like the caps and some of the other stuff that we've got as well. But it was an absolute pleasure meeting you over there and taking the time out to come across and say hello, and not just driving in. And I know, look, some people who they might live near us, and it's easy for them to get to us. But for someone to make that sort of commitment really shows, and that makes us it feels good about what we're trying to do. That people see it, it's so very important.
Sorry, Mike. There's another thing as well. There's some emotional angle as well. So I come from the same town as where Kevin comes from Pune. So there was this this emotional angle to it. We both sharing the same hometown. I know that emotional side should be kept aside when you're investing, but then still, that angle came in. Then I thought that you have to give it for Kevin and for Pune.
Yeah, look, I think the emotional angle does come in a little bit. It always does. When you're investing, it's hard to ignore that side, but it also helps us build confidence in the individuals. If you understand where they're coming from, where you've come from, and if you've got that synergy there, then I think it makes it much easier to build the trust level and the confidence to know that people are trying to do the right thing and build the right thing. So I might move on now to Sleazy Slimy. Give us a little bit of an overview of your journey to get introduced across to Layer 1X.
Hold on. So you mean how I found out about it, or more for?
Yeah. So look, anything you want to talk about with regards to it. So some of the journey through crypto and into then how you found Layer 1X.
Right. So I was saying before, I used to be involved in a gaming project, and that gaming project talked a lot about interoperability. So I was looking for more smaller cap coins because they kind of already launched. So I was looking for something that maybe I can get in early. I found Joe Paris video. Joe Paris introduced me to this decentralized swap. At the time, I didn't know what that even meant. But I saw the white paper. I saw people being excited about it as well. So I kind of went for it because I thought that for a lot of projects, I'm not going to understand it fully anyway. So it's not going to get any better from me doing more research. I was, for the first few months, I was just waiting. Then I found out that it has a pretty active community, and it was my opportunity to get to know people from the active community, because in so many other projects, it's pretty much dead. They have I don't know if it's a meme or if it's a generally useful thing, they have a GM channel where people spam good morning, and there's nothing else there. And this is the most used channel out of all channels in Discord. So I started getting to know people. I started learning how to develop skills which would be more in tune of what's necessary, rather than me trying to base my expectations based on Web 2. I found out about Rust from Layer 1 X, which I'm trying to learn now, which is great because it actually interests me a lot. Probably the other thing that I found out is that mobile applications are also very much in need, because there are so many devs in Web3 that are focusing on the backend, but the mobile developers are actually, those projects that even do have the mobile app, they are very slow. It was funny for me to witness one project which released the iOS version, but it was like half a year ago, and to this point they still haven't released the Android version. So like, it speaks volumes to how there is not enough devs in the space. So yeah, pretty much.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate the update. And Mr. Crypto Psycho.
I found out about Layer 1X by a complete fluke. I was literally at work, sweating cobs as I always am, because I'm an Englishman in Australia, and I was just in a Telegram group, which is it's called Perth Degens, and I just got a ping, checked my message, and this was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was saying, there's a crypto event in Perth at 6 o'clock, and I was in Ellenbrook, and I live in Alkimos, so Ellenbrook to Alkimos is an hour. Shower down to. I literally got there just in time. I didn't even know what it was, but a crypto event, I'm always going to go to one if I can. So went to it. As soon as I got there, quite a lot of people in there. Well, it were packed actually, and then had the pleasure of meeting Mike, Matthew, and Kevin. Listening to Kevin on stage on explaining interoperability. I think they were doing the cross-chain swap at the time. I think, and yeah, I just got blown away by it and realised that, hang on a minute, like this interoperability thing, people have talked about it for so long, and swapping and using bridges, and then I end up at this event, and it's as if it was kind of meant to be, because I literally just got there in the nick of time. I think it was about 4 weeks before the private sale ended. So from attending the event, then going away, doing a lot of research on it, and trying to also integrate a game that we were working on to then, because at the time, I worked for a game studio too, and then finding out about Layer 1X being interoperable, which is something we were going through with a game that we're building, trying to find a chain to go on, and it was like everything kind of just come together at the right time. So serendipity, whatever you want to call it, but yeah, it was writing on the wall. And fast forward, what are we now, 11 months, and I think I'm like 100 plus videos on YouTube for Layer 1X exclusively. So I reckon I caught the bug.
I think you have. You've got the virus, definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
Most definitely, yeah. It's been and it's been a hell of a journey, I think, for all of us. And even speaking to some of you guys and some of our other community out there that's listening now, it's absolutely fantastic to interact with you and know and hear about your journeys, about how you've come. And we've all got a slightly different one. Everybody's been through all sorts of experiences. Some good, some bad. You learn your lessons, and you try and apply those lessons across through your investments. And also, sometimes it's more than the investment. It's not just of money. It's of your time and your resources, your effort, because you want things to succeed. So you all fight really hard. I think we're coming up close to time now, but what I might do is just to sort of open it up around anything that sort of excites you about where we're heading, and taking a view of a long-term holder. If so, why do you have that view? Start off, Crypto Psycho, with you.
Well, for me, a long-term hold is like something that I think for my personal self, I think I'd be silly not to, because you start looking at what other blockchains have done from launch, and like there's a an infographic that goes around and it shows all your top blockchains, and you look at, like, I think it's like a 3.7 4-year time horizon from launch to all-time highs. And you kind of look at that, and I'm looking at them chains, and like, even though they're all chains what everyone's heard of, a lot of these chains, they're not necessarily doing an awful lot. There's not a lot of activity on these chains. And then I start looking at Layer 1X and kind of looking at what it offers and what it's got coming. And I think, well, I'm in at ground zero on a blockchain that's doing something that's never been done before. If this isn't a call to action to hold on to your damn tokens, your coins, for as long as possible, I don't know what is. And the thing that excites me most about Layer 1X is the unknown. Because at the minute, Layer 1X is building this protocol for people to come and innovate and build on. And I think the smartest projects what are going to build on Layer 1X, I personally think that we don't even know what they are yet, because there's so many smart, innovative people out there that have got ideas and they've just not even put pen to paper. And I think at some point we're going to get something that blows us more away than what we've already been blown away. And that's like a high expectation. But yeah, it's the unknown for me is what I'm excited about.
Totally agree. So here's a little question for everybody who's listening, and stick your hands up if you tell us if you agree or like it. Imagine if you had purchased 10,000 Bitcoin when it was sitting there at a in the cents, or even 1,000. Stick your hand up if you wish you had done that with something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of those. Just whack your hand up there. If you don't know how to do it, give it a go. I'm sure everybody would agree that they wish they had done that. Look, I think at one stage there I held about 212 Bitcoin. In the very early days. Do I wish I held it? Oh, absolutely, definitely. So jump over to Sleazy Slimy now and give us your thoughts around that.
So about that question, I remember back in like 2011, I was about, 14 years old. I had $100 for my birthday, and my dad was like, you can just spend it on anything. And I remember thinking about Bitcoin back then. It was like, I think it was like under $100 back then. But like at the time, obviously I was like 14. So I couldn't have bought it even if I wanted to, even if I decided to take the risk, because I didn't know how to do this. And we didn't exactly have a good platform to buy it back then. I would not be able to register on centralized exchange, obviously, because I was a minor. But I still think back there, like, what would have happened if I used my $100 for my birthday to this? It's always a thought that I remember. So the other thing I remember that from before, I was looking at ZettaChain. ZettaChain claims to be interoperable because they're based on Cosmos IBC. By the way, Cosmos IBC, I had another example, which was mentioned on AMA. If you listen to nothing else which is technical, listen to the example which is in Sleazy Timestamps. I don't remember which one, but essentially Kevin talks about diplomacy. Imagine if China and Australia were trying to negotiate some kind of, let's say, trade agreement. And one way would be to go through Cosmos IBC, the other one would be to go through L1X. L1X does the heavy lifting for you, but while Cosmos IBC forces you to adhere to their standard. So imagine if between Australia and China, they would have to go through US, and US would like say, here's a fill in the blanks. You can only interact using this form. We're gonna pass this blank after checking it, of course, to the other side, and they are going to interact with you using that same blank. Yeah, that would be horrible in many things. Of course, I'm exaggerating how bad it would be with Cosmos, but the point stands. It was a pretty good idea. It gives a pretty good idea of why it is very different. And I was looking at ZettaChain about selecting the right network. One of their FAQs is make sure you select the right network, otherwise your funds are unrecoverable. I'm like, yeah, that is going to be a big problem. They're even putting it in the FAQ, so they had a lot of people doing this, like in the very first few days after they launched.
No, I think
I am. Sorry, what?
No. I was going to say I think I agree with you. Look, I think I mentioned before that I did exactly that many years ago myself. and you learn that lesson very, very quickly. But for a lot of people, they don't quite understand why that's important. And I think bringing that ability across to crypto to make it simpler, to make it easy to navigate. With most of this generation, and even going back to my early days, holding a bank passport, moving across to electronic banking, I think we're now starting to see the next generation coming on, which across blockchain and crypto, and the decentralization and what that can bring to the world, especially in the finance side of things, is absolutely amazing. Across to Ash now to get your thoughts on things that excite you most now, and your thoughts around being a long-term holder.
So I think with the latest tokenomics changes, I guess we all are long-term holders now, whether you like it or not. But yeah, jokes apart, on a serious note, I'm here for the long haul. I have my tokens vested and also got a few validator nodes. So all set for the long term. And I think with the tech we have and the use cases, I see a lot of growth in the coming medium to long term. So just hold on to your coins, and then it should pay big.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I know part of what we've done with the tokenomics, pushes people down that track. But part of the reason we did that was to ensure that we look after our people, because how often you start seeing those charts, and I'm not just talking about in the crypto world, I'm talking about in the traditional finance and the share market, that you see a massive ramp up and then an absolute dump as people try to profit take. It benefits those who are able to get out quickly. Sure, they might take some money out of it, but they're really not the type of investor that we're looking for. We're looking for the people who are in it for the long haul. Those that are going to, be thankful that they've held for the future of what we can bring. Imagine being able to go cross chain to absolutely any chain. We've got 8 out there at the moment. We've got a couple more that are in the wings. One of them you know about, which is Bitcoin. Imagine uniting all of those chains together. We're not trying to compete with them. We just want to join them all together, make it simpler and easier for users so that we can get that mass adoption. I think, look, we've been going for an hour now, and it might be best to let everybody go and have a bit of a rest and a good evening. But I want to thank everyone for their time tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic talking. Let's look forward to our next one. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah. Is my mic working, or is it still echoing?
Yes. No.
Awesome. Finally, Twitter always likes to rugs all of us, or each one of us. But yeah, thanks everyone for jumping in. Thank you our speakers, and thank you our audience for jumping in as well. Just a reminder that we have a huge event coming up called Liquidity Bootstrap Phase. If you aren't aware of what that is, then I encourage you all to jump into our Discord. And I'm sure all our moderators and me, Furkan, or Joe will help you out. As always, thank you for joining, and we will see you all in the next episode of X Talks. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.